simple past continuous or progressive tense. There are actions that begin at some point in time in the past and are described by another action which occurs in the past as well. Also, some actions begin in the past and are cut short, or interrupted by another action still in the past. These are referred to as past progressive or past continuous tense. Past progressive tense feature actions that started at some point in the past before another action commenced, also in the past. They are formed with a past tense auxiliary verb, a main verb in the progressive form, and a dependent clause introduced by an adverb. Take for example, John was cooking dinner when the squirrels crawled into the house. In the example above, John was performing an action, cooking. We know that the action took place in the past through the past tense verb, was. Now that action was interrupted by another action, which is the crawling of squirrels into the house, and this is also a past action as indicated by the past tense verb, crawled. Past progressive tense features at least two clauses, one being the first action, consisting of an independent clause, that gets interrupted by the succeeding clause, which is usually a dependent clause. Here are other examples. She was sleeping while they were cooking. It was raining when they arrived at the party. Mark was screaming at Jessica before she went to report to the teacher. The dogs were barking non-stop even though there was no apparent reason for it. A close look at the examples above would reveal two things. 1. That the independent clauses and the dependent clauses in the sentences share a relation, as the dependent clause gives information about the independent clause in one way or the other. In the first sentence, the subject was asleep while another action was taking place, cooking. In this case, the first action was not interrupted by another action like we saw in the earlier example. However, they occurred simultaneously. The dependent clause gives information about what was happening while the subject was asleep. The second example does the same thing. It was raining as it when they arrived at the party. The dependent clause gives information about what was happening when they arrived. The third example takes another turn. Here, the first action is not being interrupted by another action, neither are they occurring simultaneously. However, the first action creates the impetus for the second action. That is, the first action necessitates the second action. Mark's action of screaming at Jessica created room for her to go and report to the teacher. The last example has the dependent clause commenting on the action of the first clause. For no apparent reason, the dogs were barking. 2. All the dependent clauses were introduced by adverbs, while, when, before and even though respectively. This appears to be part of the structure of past progressive tense sentences, having adverbs introduce the dependent clauses in the sentence. This is only logical because adverbs describe actions, and we have already established that the dependent clauses in past progressive tense sentences can either interrupt the independent clause, describe the context in which it takes place, be initiated by the independent clause, or simply comment on the independent clause, and these are actions that adverbs are likely to perform. So past progressive or continuous tenses are created when an action that started in the past was either interrupted by another action, commented on, contextualized, or it necessitates another action. A good way to identify them is to ensure that there is a past tense verb followed by a main verb in the progressive form, with an ing addition, and there must be a supporting clause introduced by an adverb. See you soon.